So let's talk about revenue operations. It's a world where you're constantly bombarded with frameworks, models, and buzzwords, and honestly, it can make your head spin. It is so easy to get lost and just wonder, which one of these is actually right for my team? Well, in this explainer, we're going to cut through all that confusion and look at a simpler and I think more powerful way forward.
Right? You've heard all these terms. They get thrown around in meetings. You see them all over LinkedIn. Pillar frameworks, bow tie models, flywheels, maturity assessments. It feels like everyone has a system and you're supposed to just pick one and go all in. But what if there's a more fundamental way to think about this whole thing?
And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to break down a totally different philosophy for improving your revenue engine. It's one that focuses less on these really complex, tangled models and more on a continuous, disciplined approach to growth.
Okay, so we're going to be looking at what's called the KUKI Way. Now, this is a methodology that was developed by KUKI Strategies, which is an Israel-based RevOps consultancy. They've basically built this guiding philosophy to help B2B companies create predictable, scalable revenue by getting all their commercial teams on the same page.
The KUKI Way is really built on 4 core ideas. First up, an intense focus on a very short list of truly key metrics. We're talking about things like pipeline health and customer acquisition cost. Second, you have to establish unified data as a complete non-negotiable. Third is a real commitment to making knowledge-driven decisions, which means turning that data into actual insight. And finally, embracing incremental growth, the idea that small continuous improvements are way more powerful than these massive disruptive overhauls.
So when you boil it all down, it's a structured way of saying, get your foundational data right, focus only on the numbers that actually move the needle, learn what those numbers are telling you, and then just make small, consistent improvements. Simple, right?
And this brings us to the core difference in philosophy. How does this continuous, step-by-step approach really compare to the way most companies handle RevOps? Well, it all comes down to a fundamental choice: projects versus process.
See, typically, RevOps teams are using a mix of these standard frameworks. You've got your pillar frameworks that organize the team around things like people and process. You've got lifecycle models like the flywheel to map out the customer journey. And you've got maturity models to score your capabilities and figure out what giant project you're going to tackle next. And here's where you see the fundamental split. The standard approach, it often leads to this project-based mindset. You find a weakness, maybe you use a maturity model to spot it, and then you launch this huge, disruptive project to fix it. And that often leads to team burnout and a ton of resistance. The KUKI Way just reframes this completely. It's not about these isolated projects. It's about building a continuous system where small improvements actually compound over time. It's a really powerful shift from transformation to evolution.
So, how do you fuel this continuous system of improvement? Where do you start? Well, it all begins with one of those 4 core ideas we mentioned, turning your raw data into actionable knowledge. And to do that, there is one absolute, non-negotiable requirement.
This quote just gets right to the heart of such a common problem. We love to blame our tools, right? The CRM is a total mess. But the real issue, so often, is just a lack of clear processes and data governance. You can have the absolute best tech stack in the world, but if the data going into it is garbage, your decisions will be too.
And that's why the KUKI Way places such a heavy emphasis on unified data. It's not just another buzzword for a single source of truth. It's really about treating your data integration and your data hygiene as a foundational pillar of your entire RevOps function, not some item at the bottom of a project list that you'll, get to someday.
Think of it like this: a knowledge pipeline. You just can't get to smarter decisions without having real insight. And you can't get real insight without asking better questions. And you can't even begin to ask better questions if everyone is looking at different, unreliable data. Unifying your data is that first essential step that makes everything else possible. Okay, so what does this all mean for your team? Do you need to just throw out your existing pillar framework or your lifecycle model? No, absolutely not. The real power of this philosophy is in its ability to refine and sharpen what you're already doing. This isn't just another competing framework you have to choose from. Instead, you should think of the KUKI Way as a disciplined lens that you can apply right on top of the structures you already have, which will make them way more effective.
So here's how you can do that. First, get absolutely ruthless about your metrics. Instead of tracking dozens of KPIs, identify that handful that truly drive the business and just focus all your energy there. Second, make a real, sustained investment in data unification. And third, shift your team's mindset from one-off projects to a continuous, learning-driven improvement loop. This could be as simple as adding just one validation rule to the CRM this week, or clarifying one field's definition for the entire sales team. Small steps,
And that really brings us to the final and most important question. Forget about planning some massive transformation for next quarter. Just look at your process, your data, and your metrics right now, and ask yourself, what is the one small improvement our team can make tomorrow?